Andor episode 4 just dropped, and oh my god, I thought there wasn't supposed to be any Easter eggs. Spoilers ahead, obviously, but let's talk about Luthen and his den of antiquities. So it turns out when Stellan Skarsgård is not out being an intergalactic badass, he is peddling like old antiques to rich yuppies on Coruscant. Inside of his shop, there's a ton of really cool Easter eggs that take place within and also on the outside of the Star Wars universe, but it all references Star Wars. Let's get into it. The first thing that caught my eye was a breastplate of Mandalorian Beskar. During the Night of 1,000 Tears, when the Empire ransacked Mandalore, a lot of Mandalorians died. Well, unfortunately, that led to a lot of Mandalorian armor being stolen off of their dead bodies. This is the reason that Din Djarin didn't want to give Boba Fett the armor, and after he found out that Boba does have a legitimate claim to the armor and didn't steal it, he gives it to him despite Boba not being a Mandalorian.
The Beskar belongs to the Mandalorians. It was looted from us during the Purge.
In the background, we also get to see a Calicori. Now, these were Twi'lek heirlooms that were passed down from generation to generation. It was like a living history of your family, and each subsequent member got to add a piece to it. Even the look of this totem was meant to mimic the shape of the Leku on a Twi'lek. In the background, we'll also notice what looks like Sith Stalker armor. This is very reminiscent to what Starkiller wears in the DLC on The Force Unleashed. Additionally, we get to see what looks like two knives here. Now, I was looking at this first knife and trying to figure out exactly where I've seen it before. Was this the same knife that the ones used in season 3 of the Clone Wars? But no, this is something that comes from our world, and it's reminiscent of a Roman knife. Now, I was wondering, why would a Roman knife be in Star Wars? But considering the nature of this show and what we're pulling from the Romans, it makes a lot of sense. Everything that happened with the Senate and with Palpatine taking over is very reminiscent of what Julius Caesar did back in the day. Additionally, the knife in the back looks to be like a straight-bladed tanto, which would be a traditional Japanese ceremonial knife, and we know how much influence Star Wars takes from Japan. In fact, there are many scenes from A New Hope that were taken almost exactly from the Hidden Fortress. Next, we have the double-headed serpent. Now, this is something that's not coming from the Star Wars universe at all. This is an Aztec Mexican sculpture that is currently found in the British Museum. Now, personally, I think this speaks volumes. The Aztec Mexican heritage is definitely a big part of Diego Luna, and he's made that very clear. So I can definitely see why this would potentially be chosen to be put into this show. I'm sure it would mean a lot to him. But also the fact that it's currently stored in the British Museum, basically this was stolen from that culture, and that's exactly what this little collection is doing. That's exactly what the Empire has been doing, is displacing, these people from around the galaxy. I think this probably is pretty significant, and I hope to find out more in the whatever documentary we get after the show wraps. The cudgel that Luthen holds up is said to be ancient Utapawan, had been owned by a monk, and one of the oldest things that would be in his collection. I think this is kind of interesting. In Revenge of the Sith, we see Utapau with our own eyes. It's an extremely windswept planet that is full of sinkholes, and all the cities exist within the sinkholes. Now, because he said this is so old, that implies that this existed. This was created before those sinkholes likely were created. When the first Utapauans got there, they tried to live on the surface, and it wasn't until the world ocean eroded the underside of the continents that those sinkholes took place, and they had to take shelter inside. This one has to be my absolute favorite of these Easter eggs, but we actually get wall carvings that are reminiscent of the ones. If you remember in Rebels, we actually saw a wall carving that showed, the ones, the father, the son, and the daughter, and we got to specifically see their hand gestures and what those meant. We get to see those tablets here. That's really cool. No, this would not come from the temple on Lothal, but this means that these exist throughout the galaxy. There's a lot that we don't know about the world between worlds, but we do know that it is also referred to as the Vergence Scatter. Now, it looks like most Jedi temples have been erected around Vergences in the Force, and that's why when you're in the world between worlds, we actually see symbolism that matches the different temples that those portals were connected to. This indicates that there may be more portals than what we saw on Lothal. There may be more temples just like that. I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more detail on this either in Ahsoka or in The Acolyte. Either way, I'm cool. I love Force lore. If you look in the back of Luthen's shop, you will see what looks to be a Jedi holocron as well as a Sith holocron right next to it. Now, this next one is going to be a bit of a reach, but bear with me. So the thing he actually ends up giving to Mon Mothma is 14,000 years old, and it's a sun goddess and a serpent sharing the same mouth. I think this could be symbolic of Mon Mothma herself. I think it's entirely possible that she represents the sun goddess. She emanates this light and this hope, but she shares the same mouth as a serpent, and I believe that is her husband, which we meet in the next scene. He is, I mean, I understand his plight, but he's also kind of dumb, and I think his mouth is going to get himself killed, and it's going to put her on the chopping block. The other possibility is that this is emblematic of Abrahamic religion, and you would have Eve and the serpent, and Eve is parroting the serpent's lie, which would be them sharing the same mouth. That's also possible. I think both of them are a reach. If you guys have any better ideas, please let me know. And then finally, we have the last thing I noticed, which is a Gungan shield. This is one of the Gungan shields. There's no energy surrounding it, but this could have been taken off of the battlefield. I mean, that was the earliest battle that you would find related to the Clone Wars, so it would definitely have some significance. And yeah, that's just some of the many things that we're finding in the shop. I'm anxious to see what other people come up with. If there are things that I missed or things that I got wrong, please let me know in the comments. I'm just really excited about this show. It's doing a lot. It's scratching a lot of itches for me. It's telling stories in a different way, and I'm here for it. It feels like a book, and I love Star Wars books. But thank you for sticking with me. I love doing these videos. I also love, talking about this and other Star Wars topics. Follow me in the high ground on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, and we'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.